Hello everybody, it is Hypershift here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a flight plan online in Skyvector and SimBrief and take that into Xplane to use on your GPS or your FMC, FMS, or whichever plane pretty much flight management system or computers you will be using. Today I'm going to be using the Zibo 737-800X because I love flying that. I will probably make a tutorial on the A319 as well because that's another fun one and the systems are a little different. So to start off, we're going to need something called Skyvector. It's a great tool to use for flight planning in simulators and in real life. I personally use ForFlight when I fly and make flight plans in real life, but Skyvector is going to be what most people can use for simulation purposes. So something I did, I went and looked up an aircraft profile number for the United Airlines flight that I want to fly, because that's the livery I have. So that also helps with performance numbers here, but not necessary. So for today, we'll just simulate a flight from JFK, Kennedy Airport, to Denver. And if you don't know these, you can always look them up. For example, you can look up New York Airport, and you can see JFK, LaGuardia if you don't know the ICAO codes. And you also don't need to put the K, it'll populate it for you. So one thing I really like about this is it has all these diagrams, procedures, stars, SIDs, approaches, which is really nice to use. The only downside is a lot of the approaches in the FMC in the game aren't up to date, but more or less they're pretty close and you can get a general idea of what approaches you will be flying. But it's mostly the stars and SIDs that aren't up to date. So you could also take a route from in here once you come down here, and these are routes that are cleared recently and efficient routes, and these are ATC preferred routes. So you can see if we click this, it'll populate that and give us a route, which looks pretty good. But here I mainly like to use this to see a general idea of what it should look like, and then my diagrams, which you could also open in this window, or by clicking the PDF file, open in another window. So once we have a general idea of what we're going to be doing here, I like to go over to SimBrief, and we come down here to dispatch, my flight plans, and new flight. So our airline, we're going to be United Airlines. I just put a random number in, and we can go back here to look at JFK, JFK, and then we're arriving Denver, Kilo Delta Echo November. Then we're going to look for our airframe. Down here is going to be a Boeing 737-800, which is here 738. Our profiles are automatically put in, which is great. Call sign as well. Registration we could change if we wanted to, just to have that match up. And our FIN number, not super important here. No remarks. Airac cycles are outdated, which is fine for this. And our route's already put in. So this route looks pretty similar here. Besides the end. The end looks a little bit different, just probably because it has a different approach procedure in here. So we can also look through different routes here as well if we wanted to, or we could even take the route here, copy and paste, and it will analyze it for us. It has some airways that are not found, so we could take those out, and then this one, and then we could use that as well. It's up to you if you want to use the routes here or the ones at Skyvector. Really, I just like using the ones in here. It's pretty simple because I do also look at it once we get in game. So you can also come down here to Route Finder if you want to avoid certain airways, if there's any TFRs or something, or any fixes or SIDs you don't want to use. You can use this to avoid them or find them from waypoint to waypoint or SID. Okay, so moving down, we have historical weather, which we don't have. If it's paid, alternate airports, which you can put in, it has it automatically, or ETOPS, which we aren't going to use for now. So once we have this all looked at, okay, now that that's all set, we can come back to the top here and generate a flight. Once that flight is generated, we're going to have to download our FMS file. It likes to ask you if you want to use their downloader. It personally does not matter to me. I just download the FMS file. And here's where things can get a little bit hard. Let's take this file, drag it to our desktop so we can know where it is. Then we're going to need to look up Xplane. I have a shortcut, but wherever you have it stored, you want to go to Steam Library, Steam Apps, Common, Xplane, and then you're here. So next, once you're in here, you're gonna wanna go to output, then FMF plans. I didn't have this folder at first, so I just made it. You can copy the way I have it written down here, open that up and drag it in here. Because what I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna wanna keep this open for me on another window because I'm gonna need to remember the name of this, because when we type it in, I'll need to type in KJFK to KDenver01. And you can even take off the 01 just to make it easier, or just put a 1. You could also name this anything you want. It could be New York to Denver, however you want it, but it's easier leaving it like this. So we can delete that file. And now actually, we can go ahead and start Xplane. All right, guys, so we're just loaded in here to the Boeing 737-800X. We're gonna wanna come down to our FMC, and then we're gonna go to menu, then we're gonna wanna go to root, company root, and here's where we're gonna wanna type that in. KJFK to KDenver1. Company route, flight number if you want to type that in, United Airlines, and the runway if you remember it, which I do not at the moment. Activate and execute. Then you can check your legs to go through those and see if those all add up to what you have on Skyvector, which it looks like they do, which looks nice. You could also add procedures. So you can have departure procedures. For example, we can put in these 4, which I told you these are older. And again, runway, which is helpful, but do not remember it at the moment. Then we're going to want to go back to arrivals. We can use the DAND arrival with the transition and the ILS 7. Execute, and then we can go look at our legs. So if you have a discontinuity, you're just going to want to take the item below it, click up, and execute. And then you can run through these and match these up to your flight plan on Skyvector or SimBrief with the legs, and you should be all good. Now all that's left to do is turn your autopilot on and have fun flying. So I hope this video helped you guys out. If you do have any more questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll probably make a more in-depth autopilot video on how to actually use the autopilot and the features and functions about that, because that's a little bit more in-depth. So I wanted to keep this simple about just how to use a flight plan. If that helped you guys out, feel free to leave a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe would be even better, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.